r/TIFU stepsister drained my college fund, so I ruined her at work. TIFU by trusting my stepsister and then completely destroying her life in return. The bank teller's face said everything I needed to know before she even spoke. That sympathetic head tilt, the way she glanced at her screen and then back at me with those pitying eyes, I knew my college fund was gone. "I'm sorry, but your account shows a balance of $247.83, she said softly, probably thinking I was about to have a breakdown right there in the marble-floored lobby of First National. She wasn't wrong. "That's impossible," I stammered, gripping the counter. "There should be $40,000 in there." $40,000. I checked it 3 months ago when I paid my fall tuition. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone, frantically opening my banking app like the numbers would somehow be different on a smaller screen. But there it was, or rather, there it wasn't. For years of my dad's careful saving, birthday money from grandparents, summer job earnings, all of it systematically drained over the past 10 weeks. The withdrawal history read like a shopping spree from hell: $3,200 to something called Lux Beauty Collective, $1,800 to Aesthetic Angels Med Spa, $4,500 to Designer Consignment Plus. The largest single withdrawal was $8,900 to Platinum Social Media Solutions, whatever the hell that was. But it was the signature on the withdrawal slips that made my blood turn to ice water. Madison Chin Williams. My stepsister's perfect, practiced signature that she'd probably been forging since middle school. The same Madison who'd hugged me at Christmas and told me how proud she was that I was the first person in our family to really make something of themselves. The same Madison who'd had access to all our family documents when she moved back home last spring after her latest boyfriend kicked her out. I stumbled out of the bank in a daze, my phone buzzing with increasingly frantic texts from my university's financial aid office. Spring semester payment was due in 6 days. Without that money, I'd be forced to withdraw 3 credits short of my computer science degree. 4 years of 3.8 GPA, 2 internships, and enough caffeine to kill a horse, all of it worthless without that piece of paper. The drive home felt like swimming through molasses. Every red light, every slow-moving truck in front of me just gave my mind more time to process the betrayal. Madison wasn't just my stepsister, she'd been my ally in our chaotic blended family. When our parents married 5 years ago, she was the one who helped me navigate the awkwardness, who stayed up late helping me with calculus homework, who drove me to job interviews when my car broke down. And now she'd literally stolen my future. I sat in my car outside our house for 20 minutes, watching Madison's white BMW in the driveway, the same BMW she claimed was a lease special, but now I realized probably cost more than most people's annual salary. Her Instagram perfect life suddenly made sense. The designer bags, the weekly spa treatments, the professional photo shoots for her influencer brand that never seemed to actually influence anyone to buy anything. She'd been living off my college fund like her own personal trust fund. My phone buzzed with a notification from Instagram. Madison had posted a new story, a boomerang of her getting her nails done, captioned, "Self-Care Sunday. Treating myself because I work so hard. Nail polish sparkles, #bossbabe, #blessed." That's when something cold and calculating settled in my chest. Madison thought she was smart, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd stolen from someone who knew exactly how to destroy her digital life. And I was about to show her just how hard I could work too. I walked into our house like I was stepping into enemy territory. The familiar sounds of Madison's world hit me immediately, some reality TV show blaring from the living room, the whir of her ring light setup, and her voice doing that fake sweet tone she used for her Instagram stories. "Hey babe. Just finished the most amazing collagen smoothie. Recipe link in my bio. Use code Maddie20 for 20% off, but only until midnight, so don't wait." I peered around the corner and watched her perform for her phone camera, surrounded by at least $3,000 worth of lighting equipment and backdrop setups. The same equipment that was probably paid for with withdrawal number 47 from my college fund. "Oh hey, Jamie." She noticed me and immediately switched off the recording, her influencer smile melting into something that almost looked genuine. "How was your day? You look stressed." The audacity was breathtaking. She was asking me how my day was. The day I discovered she'd financially destroyed my life. "Just bank stuff," I managed, watching her face carefully for any tell. "Boring financial aid things." Not even a flicker. Madison just nodded sympathetically and went back to adjusting her ring light. "Ugh, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that college drama anymore. It's like, the real world is so much better, you know. I'm making more money now than most people with degrees." "Really? What kind of money?" I kept my voice casual, but my computer science brain was already cataloging every detail of her setup, every piece of equipment, every contradiction in her story. "Well, I can't get into specifics because of NDAs and stuff, but my social media management clients pay really well. Plus affiliate marketing, sponsored posts, my consultation calls." She gestured vaguely at her phone. "It's all about building authentic relationships with your audience. Most people don't understand the strategy behind it. Authentic relationships. Right." I pulled out my phone and scrolled to her Instagram while she wasn't looking. At Madison Lives Lux had 47K followers, which seemed impressive until you started noticing patterns. Comments that were all generic praise from accounts with no profile pictures. Likes that jumped in weird increments. Engagement that looked suspiciously bot-generated. But here's what really caught my attention: her recent posts were getting major engagement from accounts belonging to employees at tech startups around the city. Not random people who discovered her content organically, but specific professionals who worked at companies with marketing budgets. "Madison," I said slowly, "remind me where you work again. You mentioned getting an office job a few months back." She froze for just a second, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. "Oh, I'm doing contract work now. More flexible, better money. I'm actually helping this startup with their social media strategy. They're getting incredible ROI from my campaigns." That's when it clicked. Madison wasn't just running some amateur influencer scam. She had access to a real marketing budget, real business accounts, and she was somehow funneling money through her personal brand while probably inflating metrics for her employer. This wasn't just about my college fund anymore. This was about a whole web of fraud that went way deeper than I'd initially thought. That's so cool, I said, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. What's the company called? Maybe I've heard of them. Oh, it's still in stealth mode, she said quickly. Super confidential. You know how startups are about their competitive advantage. Right. Confidential. Just like how my bank account information was supposed to be confidential. My phone buzzed with another notification from the financial aid office, reminding me that I had 5 days to pay or withdraw from spring semester. 5 days to either come up with $40,000 or watch 4 years of my life disappear. But Madison had just given me something much more valuable than she realized, a roadmap to her entire operation. And I was about to follow it straight back to every penny she'd stolen. That night, I did what any good computer science student would do when faced with a digital mystery. I started digging. While Madison was downstairs doing her evening skincare routine livestream, I pulled up everything I could find about her online presence. What I discovered made my stomach drop even further than the bank visit had. Madison wasn't just running a basic influencer scam. She was sophisticated about it. Her follower growth patterns showed clear signs of bot purchasing, but she'd been smart enough to space out the purchases and mix in just enough organic growth to avoid detection by Instagram's algorithms. Her engagement pods were carefully managed, groups of fake accounts that would like and comment on each other's posts to boost visibility. But the real revelation came when I cross-referenced the companies engaging with her content. One name kept popping up, Nexus Digital Creative Agency. A trendy startup downtown that specialized in social media marketing for tech companies. And according to their LinkedIn page, Madison Chin-Williams was listed as their senior social media strategist. She hadn't been lying about having a real job. She'd been lying about everything else. I spent the next 3 hours building a complete picture of what Madison was running. She was using her position at Nexus to funnel their clients' marketing budgets into boosting her own personal brand. The Platinum Social Media Solutions charged for my bank statement. That was a fake vendor she created to bill Nexus for services that were actually just payments to herself. The beauty purchases, the spa treatments, the designer clothes, she wasn't just stealing from me. She was stealing from her employer and using my college fund as her personal slush fund while she built what looked like a legitimate business on the outside. My laptop screen glowed in the dark room as I documented everything. Screenshots of suspicious engagement patterns, records of fake vendor payments, evidence of inflated metrics that she was probably presenting to clients as organic growth. Madison thought she was playing in the minor leagues, but she was actually running a multi-layered fraud operation that could land her in federal prison. The smart thing would have been to take everything to the police. File a report, press charges, let the legal system handle it. But the legal system moved slowly, and I had 4 days left before my academic future disappeared forever. 4 days before everything I'd worked for became worthless. That's when I heard footsteps on the stairs, and Madison's voice calling out cheerfully, "Jamie. Are you still up? I made too much of my nighttime tea blend if you want some." I closed my laptop quickly and walked to my door. Madison was standing in the hallway in her silk pajamas, the ones that probably cost more than my textbooks for an entire semester, holding 2 steaming mugs and looking like the perfect picture of sisterly concern. "You seemed really stressed earlier," she said, offering me one of the mugs. "I know college is overwhelming, but everything works out in the end, you know. Sometimes life just takes you in different directions than you planned." The casual way she said it made my blood boil. Like my education was some whimsical life choice that I could just abandon when things got tough. Like she hadn't personally orchestrated the different direction my life was about to take. "Thanks," I managed, accepting the tea. "You're right. Sometimes you just have to adapt to new information." Madison smiled and squeezed my shoulder. "Exactly. You're so smart, Jamie. You'll figure something out." As she walked back to her room, humming some pop song under her breath, I stared down at the tea she'd made me. Steam rose from the surface, and I could smell chamomile and honey, the same blend she used to make when I was stressed about exams. That's when I realized the most twisted part of this entire situation. Madison probably still thought of herself as a good stepsister. In her mind, she wasn't destroying my life. She was just living hers. But she was about to learn that actions have consequences. I spent the rest of that night planning my approach with the methodical precision of debugging code. Every fraud scheme has vulnerabilities, and Madison's operation had more holes than a freshman's first programming assignment. The next morning, I watched her get ready for work through the gap in my bedroom door. Designer blazer, check. The Chanel bag she'd claimed was a thrift store find, check. The confidence of someone who thought she covered her tracks perfectly, double check. "Have a great day," she called out as she grabbed her keys. "Maybe today's the day you hear back about that scholarship application." Right. The scholarship I'd never applied for because I thought my college fund would cover everything. After her BMW disappeared down the street, I made my first move. I called Nexus Digital Creative Agency, using the overly cheerful tone I'd perfected during my customer service job last summer. "Hi. I'm calling about Madison Chin-Williams' social media work. I'm looking to hire a consultant for my startup, and she gave me your company's name as a reference." The receptionist transferred me to someone named Derek in account management. Within 5 minutes of small talk, I had confirmation of everything I'd suspected. Madison managed social media for 3 major clients, had access to their advertising budgets, and, most interestingly, had been pushing innovative influencer partnership strategies that involved collaborating with her own personal brand. "She's really been a game changer for our ROI metrics," Derek said enthusiastically. "Our clients are seeing engagement numbers they've never hit before." Fake engagement numbers, but he didn't need to know that yet. "That's exactly what we're looking for," I said. "Could you send me some case studies? Especially anything showing the specific influencer accounts she's partnered with?" 20 minutes later, my email contained a treasure trove of documentation. Madison had been billing clients for micro-influencer collaborations with accounts that were obviously her own fake profiles. She'd created an entire network of fictional social media personalities, complete with fake lifestyle content and purchased followers, then charged companies thousands of dollars to have these fake accounts promote their products. But the most damning evidence was in the metrics reports. Madison had been presenting completely fabricated analytics to clients, showing massive engagement and conversion rates that existed only in her carefully crafted spreadsheets. I was printing everything when my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Jamie Williams? The woman's voice was professional but strained. Yes. This is Lisa Chen, Madison's mother. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. My blood went cold. Madison's mom had always been nice to me, but we rarely spoke directly. Okay. Madison asked me to co-sign on some financial documents a few months ago. Said they were for a business loan. But I just got a call from my bank about irregular activity on my account. Jamie, did Madison have access to any of your financial information? The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Madison hadn't just forged documents to access my college fund, she'd used her mother's financial information as backup authorization. Mrs. Chen's signature was probably on half the withdrawal slips I hadn't seen yet. Mrs. Chen, I said carefully, I think we need to talk in person. Are you available today? There was a long pause. She stole from you too, didn't she? The defeat in her voice told me everything. Madison's web of fraud extended beyond just me, beyond just her employer. She'd been systematically manipulating everyone who trusted her, building her fake empire on a foundation of stolen money and forged documents. How much? Mrs. Chen asked quietly. 40,000. My entire college fund. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. When Mrs. Chen finally spoke again, her voice had changed completely, from worried mother to something much harder. I'll be there in an hour. And Jamie? Bring everything you found. It's time Madison learned that family means something. Mrs. Chen arrived exactly 1 hour later, carrying a leather portfolio that looked like it contained the weight of the world. I watched from my bedroom window as she sat in her car for a full 5 minutes before finally walking to our front door, and I knew this conversation was going to change everything. Show me, she said without preamble when I let her in. No small talk, no pleasantries. Just a mother who'd realized her daughter had become someone she didn't recognize. We spread everything across the dining room table like we were planning a military operation. My bank statements, her account records, the printed emails from Nexus Digital, screenshots of Madison's fake influencer network. The evidence painted a picture that was somehow even worse than I'd initially thought. She didn't just steal from us, Mrs. Chen said, pointing to a series of charges on her statement. Look at these dates. She's been testing different amounts, different vendors. This goes back almost 8 months. She was right. What I thought was a recent desperate grab for money was actually a carefully orchestrated long-term plan. Madison had been systematically figuring out how much she could take, how often, without triggering automatic fraud alerts. My college fund wasn't a crime of opportunity, it was the finale of something she'd been building toward for months. There's more, Mrs. Chen continued, pulling out her own manila folder. After you called, I did some digging. Madison's been using both our information to open credit cards. Look. 3 different credit applications, all with Madison's income information but using Mrs. Chen's address and my social security number as an authorized user. The credit limits totaled nearly $60,000, and according to the statements, she'd maxed out 2 of them already. My hands started shaking again. She's destroyed my credit. She's destroyed everything, Mrs. Chen said grimly. But Jamie, there's something else you need to know. I called Nexus Digital after we spoke. My stomach dropped. You what? I asked to speak with Madison about a family emergency. They told me she's not just their social media strategist, she's being considered for a promotion to creative director. The decision comes down this week. The implications hit me like a truck. Madison wasn't just running this scam for quick cash. She was building towards something bigger. A promotion would give her access to larger client budgets, more financial authority, and the perfect legitimate cover for an even more sophisticated fraud operation. We have to stop this now, I said, but Mrs. Chen was already shaking her head. It's not that simple. If we go to the police today, it becomes a criminal investigation. That means everything gets frozen, the stolen money, her assets, even her salary. The legal process could take years, and there's no guarantee you'll see any of that money before your tuition deadline. So what are you suggesting? Mrs. Chen's expression hardened in a way that reminded me exactly where Madison had learned to be calculating. I'm suggesting we give Madison one chance to fix this herself. Today. Before her promotion meeting tomorrow. You want to confront her. I want to give her the opportunity to return every penny she's stolen, close the fraudulent credit accounts, and resign from Nexus before we involve law enforcement. She paused, studying the evidence spread between us. But if she refuses, or if she tries to lie her way out of this, then we burn it all down. The coldness in Mrs. Chen's voice was almost scarier than discovering the theft in the first place. Madison had miscalculated badly. She'd assumed her mother would always protect her, would always choose family loyalty over justice. But looking at Mrs. Chen's face as she organized the evidence into neat piles, I realized Madison was about to learn that some betrayals cut too deep for maternal love to heal. My phone buzzed with a text from Madison, working late tonight. Big presentation tomorrow. Wish me luck. Flex bicep sparkles. Mrs. Chen read it over my shoulder and let out a bitter laugh. She has no idea what's coming. When do we do this? I asked. Tonight. When she gets home. Mrs. Chen closed her portfolio with a decisive snap. One way or another, this ends today. The waiting was torture. Mrs. Chen and I spent the afternoon in tense silence, occasionally reorganizing our evidence or checking our phones for updates from Madison. Every car that drove down our street made my heart race, thinking she'd come home early and catch us planning her confrontation. Around 6 p.m., Madison posted another Instagram story, a boomerang of her at some trendy downtown restaurant with the caption, Client Dinner. Building authentic brand partnerships. Hashtag networking queen, hashtag girlboss. Client dinner, Mrs. Chen muttered, scrolling through Madison's story highlights. Look at this place, Jamie. This is a $200 per person restaurant. What kind of client dinner requires reservations at the most expensive place in the city? I pulled up the restaurant's website and felt my stomach drop. Mom, this isn't a client dinner. Look at the tag location and the timestamp on her story. She posted this 20 minutes ago, but their earliest reservation tonight is 8:30. She's there with someone personal. Mrs. Chen's face went pale. Jamie, what if there is no client dinner? What if Madison knows we're onto her? The thought hadn't occurred to me, but now it seemed glaringly obvious. Madison was smart enough to run a multi-layered fraud operation, smart enough to manipulate financial institutions and her employer. Was she really not smart enough to notice her mother asking unusual questions about bank accounts and calling her workplace? Check her location sharing, I said, pulling out my laptop. Some of these family tracking apps keep historical data. Mrs. Chen fumbled with her phone, opening the Find My Family app they'd set up years ago. Madison's location showed her at the restaurant, but when we scrolled back through the day's timeline, something weird emerged. She'd been at Nexus Digital until 3 p.m., then her location had gone dark for 2 hours, no GPS signal at all. She turned off her phone, Mrs. Chen said slowly. For 2 hours in the middle of a workday. Jamie, people don't turn off their phones unless they're doing something they don't want recorded. My mind raced through possibilities. Had Madison been meeting with someone? Moving money around? Or worse, had she somehow figured out that we were investigating her and spent those 2 hours covering her tracks? I opened my laptop and tried to log into my banking app, but got an error message, account access temporarily restricted. Please contact customer service. Mrs. Chen, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Try logging into your bank account. Her fingers shook as she typed in her credentials. Same error message. She's locked us out, I breathed. Madison somehow triggered security restrictions on both our accounts. Mrs. Chen's phone started ringing. Unknown number. Mrs. Chen. This is Derek Morrison from Nexus Digital Creative. I'm calling about our conversation earlier regarding Madison Chen Williams. Mrs. Chen put the call on speaker, her face grim. Yes. Ma'am, I need to ask, when you called looking for Madison today, you mentioned a family emergency. I want you to know that after we spoke, Madison came to me with some concerns about potential identity theft affecting her family members. She's requested that we implement additional security protocols for her accounts. My blood turned to ice. Madison hadn't just figured out we were investigating her, she'd gotten ahead of it. She was already spinning a narrative where she was the victim, where any evidence we gathered could be explained away as the result of someone else stealing her identity. What kind of security protocols? Mrs. Chen managed. Well, I can't get into specifics, but she's working with our legal team to document any fraudulent activity that might have occurred using her name. She mentioned that someone may have been impersonating her to access family financial accounts. The audacity was breathtaking. Madison was using her position at Nexus to create an official paper trail that painted her as the victim of the exact crimes she'd committed. She was building a legal shield in real time. Derek, Mrs. Chen said carefully, has Madison mentioned anything about needing time off to handle this identity theft situation? Actually, quite the opposite. She's requested to move up her promotion presentation to tomorrow morning. She wants to demonstrate her crisis management skills by continuing to deliver excellent work even while dealing with this personal situation. It's really admirable, honestly. Mrs. Chen ended the call and stared at me with growing horror. She's not running scared, Jamie. She's doubling down. Madison wasn't just covering her tracks, she was preparing to get promoted into a position with even more access and authority, while simultaneously creating a legal narrative that would protect her if we tried to expose her. We'd underestimated her completely. And now we were walking into a confrontation where she held all the cards. My phone buzzed with a text from Madison at 9:47 p.m., just got home. Come downstairs, I have amazing news to share. Party popper. Mrs. Chen and I exchanged a look across the dining room table, our carefully organized evidence suddenly feeling inadequate against whatever Madison had been orchestrating all day. The cheerful tone of her message felt like a trap. She knows, Mrs. Chen whispered. That enthusiasm isn't natural. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. Madison was moving around the kitchen with unusual energy, opening cabinets, running water, humming that same pop song from the night before. But underneath the casual sounds, I could hear something else, the rapid-fire clicking of her phone keyboard. She was texting someone. Jamie. Mom. Come down here. I'm making celebratory hot chocolate. Mrs. Chen gripped my arm. We stick to the plan. Show her the evidence, demand she fix it, and if she refuses, we go to the authorities tomorrow. But as we walked downstairs, I noticed details that made my skin crawl. Madison had changed clothes since her Instagram story, gone with a designer blazer and heels from the restaurant, replaced by her old college sweatshirt and fuzzy slippers. She looked younger, more innocent, like the Madison who used to help me with calculus homework. It was a costume. There you are. She beamed at us, stirring 3 mugs of hot chocolate with theatrical enthusiasm. I have incredible news. You know how I've been worried about identity theft in our family? Well, I spent all day working with Nexus's legal team, and we figured out exactly what happened. Mrs. Chen and I sat down at the kitchen island, the evidence folder hidden behind my back. Madison slid our hot chocolate toward us with that same sisterly smile. So it turns out, Madison continued, her voice taking on a rehearsed quality, someone has been using our family's information to open fraudulent accounts and make unauthorized purchases. The good news is that the legal team thinks we can get everything reversed, but it's going to require all of us to file police reports as victims. The manipulation was masterful. She was preemptively forcing us into the role of fellow victims, making it impossible to accuse her without seeming paranoid or ungrateful for her help. Madison, Mrs. Chen said slowly, exactly how much unauthorized activity are we talking about? Well, that's the crazy part. Madison pulled out her phone and started scrolling through what looked like official bank documents. Whoever did this has been really systematic. They drained Jamie's college fund, opened credit cards using our information, and even created fake business accounts. But here's the thing, they were smart about it. They made it look like the transactions were legitimate. I felt like I was watching a masterclass in gaslighting. Madison was describing her own crimes while positioning herself as the detective who'd uncovered them. The legal team says cases like this usually involve someone with intimate knowledge of the victim's personal information, she continued. Someone who had access to social security numbers, bank account details, family financial documents. They think it might be someone from Dad's office, you know how he keeps all our paperwork in those filing cabinets at work. She was framing our stepfather. creating a narrative that would explain how someone had access to our information while keeping herself completely clean. Mrs. Chen's grip on her mug tightened. And the legal team thinks filing police reports will help. Absolutely. But we need to do it together, as a family. Tomorrow morning, before the trail gets any colder. Madison's smile brightened. I already scheduled us appointments at the police station. 9 a.m. sharp. My mind raced through the implications. If we filed reports claiming we were all victims of identity theft, any evidence we gathered against Madison would look like part of the crime she was reporting. She positioned herself as the helpful family member trying to solve the mystery, while we'd look like paranoid relatives turning on someone trying to help. There's just one small complication, Madison added, her tone staying artificially light. The legal team mentioned that any family member who doesn't cooperate fully with the investigation might look suspicious to the police. Like, if someone had evidence of the fraud but didn't share it, or if they seemed reluctant to participate in the official process. The threat was crystal clear. She knew we had evidence against her, and she was warning us that using it would backfire. So, Madison said, raising her mug in a mock toast, are we all in this together? The hot chocolate tasted like ash in my mouth as I stared at Madison's expectant face. She was waiting for an answer, but every possible response felt like stepping into quicksand. Agree to her plan, and we'd be locked into her victim narrative forever. Refuse, and she'd paint us as uncooperative family members hiding something from the police. Madison, I said carefully, setting down my mug, before we make any official reports, maybe we should review what evidence we have. Just to make sure our stories are consistent. Her smile flickered for just a microsecond. What kind of evidence? Mrs. Chen reached behind my back and pulled out our folder, placing it on the kitchen counter between us like a gauntlet. The kind that shows exactly who had access to our financial information. I watched Madison's face as her mother opened the folder and began laying out documents. Bank statements, credit card applications, screenshots of fake social media accounts, email chains with Nexus Digital. Each piece of evidence landed on the granite countertop with a soft thud that felt deafening in the sudden silence. Madison's performance mask didn't crack, but something shifted behind her eyes. The calculated innocence was still there, but now it was layered over something much sharper. Wow, she said slowly, picking up one of her fake Instagram account screenshots. Someone really went all out with this identity theft. They even created social media profiles. That's incredibly sophisticated. She was still playing the victim card, but I could hear the wheels turning in her head as she processed what we'd uncovered. Madison, Mrs. Chen said, her voice deadly quiet, we know it was you. The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of our neighbor's TV through the walls. Madison set down the screenshot and looked between us with what almost seemed like genuine hurt. Mom, you think I stole from my own family? I think you've been running a complex fraud operation for months, using our personal information to fund your lifestyle while manipulating your employer's marketing budgets. Mrs. Chen's voice was steady, but I could see her hands shaking. I think you forged documents, created fake businesses, and systematically drained Jamie's entire college fund. Madison was quiet for a long moment, studying the evidence spread across the counter. When she finally looked up, something fundamental had changed in her expression. The performance was over. You know what, she said, and her voice had lost all its artificial sweetness. You're right. I did take the money. But before you start acting all high and mighty, maybe you should ask yourselves why I had to. Mrs. Chen recoiled like she'd been slapped. Had to? Do you have any idea what it's like being the family disappointment? Jamie's the perfect student with the perfect grades heading toward the perfect career. Dad's always talking about how proud he is of his brilliant stepkid. And what am I? The college dropout who can't hold down a relationship. Madison stood up and started pacing the kitchen, her facade completely abandoned now. I finally found something I was good at. Building a brand, growing a following, managing social media strategies. But nobody takes that seriously unless you have the lifestyle to back it up. You think clients want to hire someone who lives in their parents' basement? So you stole from us, I said, anger finally overriding my shock. I invested in my future, Madison snapped. And it was working. Do you know how close I am to that promotion? How much that creative director position will pay? I would have paid back every penny within 6 months. Mrs. Chen stood up slowly, her face pale. Madison, you destroyed Jamie's education. You ruined my credit. You've been committing fraud against your own employer. I've been surviving in a world that doesn't give people like me second chances, Madison shot back. Jamie gets college funds and scholarships and everyone cheering them on. I get told to figure it out and be more responsible. Well, I figured it out. My phone buzzing interrupted the standoff. Text message from an unknown number. Is this Jamie Williams? This is Amanda Rodriguez from Nexus Digital's HR department. I need to speak with you urgently about Madison Chen Williams. Can you call me tonight? Madison's eyes darted to my phone screen, and for the first time all evening, I saw genuine panic flash across her face. Who is that? She demanded. But I was already dialing the number, and something told me Madison's carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down from a direction none of us had expected. The phone rang twice before a tired-sounding woman answered. Amanda Rodriguez. This is Jamie Williams, I said, putting the call on speaker while maintaining eye contact with Madison. You said you needed to speak with me about Madison Chen Williams. Thank God you called back. Amanda's voice carried the weight of someone who'd been dealing with a crisis all day. Jamie, I'm calling because we've discovered some irregularities in Madison's work, and your name has come up in our investigation. Are you familiar with a company called Platinum Social Media Solutions? My stomach dropped. That was the fake vendor Madison had created, the one that had charged my college fund $8,900. Yes, I'm familiar with it. According to our records, Madison listed you as a character reference when she set up vendor agreements with this company. She claimed you could verify their legitimacy and past work history. Madison's face had gone completely white. She was shaking her head frantically, mouthing, hang up, at me, but Mrs. Chen moved closer to the phone, her expression grim. What kind of irregularities are we talking about? I asked. Amanda sighed heavily. We're looking at approximately $80,000 in unauthorized vendor payments over the past 4 months. All to companies that don't seem to exist outside of basic business registrations. Madison had approval authority for marketing expenses up to $15,000 per transaction, and she's been systematically billing fake services. $80,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. Madison hadn't just stolen my college fund, she'd been running a massive embezzlement scheme at work simultaneously. There's more, Amanda continued. We discovered that several of the micro-influencers she's been paying for promotional work are accounts controlled by the same IP address. Her home IP address. Madison lunged for my phone, but Mrs. Chen intercepted her, grabbing her wrist. Let them finish, she said firmly. Jamie, Amanda continued, we need to know if Madison ever asked you to sign any documents related to her work, or if she had access to your personal information for business purposes. This is part of a formal investigation, and we're required to involve law enforcement if we can't account for the missing funds. I looked at Madison, who was now sitting on the floor with her head in her hands. The confident woman from 5 minutes ago had completely disappeared, replaced by someone who looked like she was watching her entire world collapse in real time. She had access to my financial information, I said slowly. And she used it without my permission. Did she steal from you personally as well? $40,000. My entire college fund. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. When Amanda finally spoke again, her voice was completely different, harder, more official. Jamie, I need you to listen carefully. Do not discuss this conversation with Madison. Do not let her leave the house tonight. We've been trying to reach her all day, but she's not responding to calls or emails. Our legal team believes she may be preparing to flee. Madison's head snapped up. I'm not fleeing anywhere. This is all a misunderstanding. Is that Madison? Amanda asked sharply. Put her on the phone. Now. Madison scrambled to her feet and grabbed the phone from me. Amanda, hi, I can explain everything. The vendor payments were all legitimate, I have documentation. Madison, where have you been today? You missed 2 mandatory meetings and didn't respond to any communications from HR or legal. I was handling the family identity theft situation I told Derek about. I've been working with lawyers all day too. Madison, stop. Amanda's voice cut through the lie like a blade. There is no identity theft situation. We've traced every fraudulent transaction back to accounts under your direct control. Your Platinum Social Media Solutions vendor registration lists your personal cell phone number. The kitchen fell silent except for Madison's rapid breathing. I watched her realize that her carefully constructed house of cards was finally collapsing, and there was nowhere left to run. You need to be in our office tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., Amanda continued. With a lawyer. And Jamie, you should contact the police tonight. This is way bigger than workplace fraud now. As Amanda hung up, Madison slowly sank back down to the floor, and I realized that everything we discovered so far was just the beginning. The silence after Amanda hung up felt like standing in the eye of a hurricane. Madison sat crumpled on the kitchen floor, staring at the evidence scattered across the counter like it was written in a foreign language. Mrs. Chen looked like she'd aged 10 years in the past hour, gripping the edge of the granite so hard her knuckles had gone white. Then Madison started laughing. Not the fake, performative laugh from her Instagram videos, but something raw and bitter that made my skin crawl. You know what the really funny part is, she said, looking up at us with red-rimmed eyes. I actually convinced myself I was helping this family. Helping? Mrs. Chen's voice cracked. Madison, you've destroyed. I was going to pay it back. Madison scrambled to her feet, suddenly manic. The promotion comes with a $90,000 salary plus bonuses. I had it all calculated. 6 months, maybe 8, and everyone would have gotten their money back with interest. Jamie would never have even known it was gone. I stared at her incredulously. My tuition deadline is in 3 days. 3 days, Madison. Details, she waved dismissively, and I realized she was completely detached from reality. I was going to figure something out. Maybe take a short-term loan against my future salary, or... My phone started buzzing again. This time it was a call from Dad. Madison's eyes went wide. Don't answer that. Please, Jamie, just give me 24 hours to fix this. I can make it right, I swear I can make it right. But Mrs. Chen was already reaching for the phone. He deserves to know what his daughter has done. Stepdaughter, Madison said quietly, and something in her tone made me pause with my finger hovering over the accept button. I'm his stepdaughter. Just like you're his stepkid, Jamie. Neither of us is really family. The manipulation was breathtaking even now. She was trying to create an us versus them dynamic, like our blended family structure somehow justified her crimes. Madison, I said slowly, being a stepfamily doesn't mean we're not real family. It just means we chose each other. Right, she laughed bitterly. We chose each other. That's why Dad spent all that money on your college fund but never offered to help me when I was struggling. That's why everyone talks about your bright future while treating my career like a joke. Mrs. Chen's face went ashen. Madison, your father offered to pay for you to go back to school. Multiple times. You said you didn't want to be trapped in the education system. Because I knew I'd never be as smart as Jamie. The words exploded out of her like she'd been holding them back for years. Why waste everyone's time and money watching me fail at something Jamie could do in their sleep? My phone was still buzzing. Dad wasn't giving up. Answer it, Mrs. Chen said firmly. This family doesn't keep secrets. I accepted the call and put it on speaker. Dad's voice filled the kitchen, cheerful and completely oblivious to the disaster unfolding in his home. Hey kiddo. I just got off a conference call, and you'll never guess what happened. Remember how I mentioned your college situation to my business partner? Well, he knows someone on the board at your university, and they might be able to arrange a payment extension. Dad, I interrupted, we need to talk. Are you sitting down? The enthusiasm in his voice immediately shifted to concern. What's wrong? Is everyone okay? I looked at Madison, who was shaking her head desperately, tears streaming down her face. Mrs. Chen stood frozen, holding onto the counter like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Dad, I said, Madison stole my college fund. And about $80,000 from her employer. We found out an hour ago. The silence from the phone was deafening. I could hear Dad's office chair creaking, could practically feel him trying to process what I just said. When he finally spoke, his voice was completely different. Smaller. Put Madison on the phone. Madison was already shaking her head, backing toward the kitchen door. I can't do this right now. Madison Rose Chin Williams, Dad's voice boomed through the speaker, using her full name like he had when she was 16 and missed curfew. You get on this phone right now. But Madison was already running, her footsteps pounding up the stairs. A few seconds later, I heard her bedroom door slam. She's gone, I told Dad. Mrs. Chen sank into one of the kitchen chairs, looking defeated. Michael, there's more. So much more. And as I began explaining the full scope of Madison's fraud to my stepfather, I could hear movement upstairs, drawers opening and closing, the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. Madison wasn't just hiding from this conversation. She was packing. The sound of Madison's car engine starting at 2:47 a.m. jolted me awake. I'd been lying in bed fully clothed, listening to her pack through the thin walls, waiting for exactly this moment. By the time I reached my bedroom window, her white BMW was already backing out of the driveway, headlights cutting through the darkness. She was running. I grabbed my phone and called Mrs. Chen, who picked up on the first ring. She's gone, I said without preamble. I know. I've been watching from my hotel room window. Mrs. Chen had decided to stay at a nearby hotel after our confrontation, claiming she needed space to process everything. Jamie, we have a problem. I just got off the phone with Amanda from Nexus Digital. My stomach clenched. What now? Madison wasn't supposed to know about their investigation yet. Amanda called you directly because they suspected Madison might run if she found out they were onto her. But our confrontation tonight tipped her off before they could freeze her accounts or secure the remaining funds. I felt the blood drain from my face. How much money are we talking about? Amanda estimates Madison has access to another $40,000 in company accounts that she could drain before the banks open on Monday. Plus whatever she's already moved into personal accounts we don't know about. The math was staggering. Between my college fund, the money stolen from Mrs. Chen, the embezzlement from Nexus, and now this potential final grab, Madison could disappear with well over $150,000. Enough to start a new life somewhere else while leaving all of us financially destroyed. There's something else, Mrs. Chen continued, her voice strained. I found something in Madison's room after she left. A printed email confirmation for a flight to Portland, Oregon, departing at 6:30 a.m. But Jamie, the ticket isn't under Madison Chin Williams. My blood turned to ice. What name? Jessica Chen. She's been building a backup identity. I started pacing my room, my mind racing through implications. Madison hadn't just been planning to steal money, she'd been preparing to disappear entirely. The systematic theft, the fake businesses, even the job at Nexus, all of it was building toward this moment when she could vanish with enough cash to reinvent herself somewhere else. We have to stop her, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I realized how impossible that sounded. Madison had hours of head start, access to funds we couldn't track, and an apparent backup identity we knew nothing about. Amanda is contacting the FBI, Mrs. Chen said. Once the theft crosses state lines, it becomes federal wire fraud. But Jamie, these investigations take months, sometimes years. And there's no guarantee we'll ever see any of that money back. I sank onto my bed, the reality crushing down on me. In 3 days, I'd have to withdraw from my final semester of college. All because I trusted someone who'd been systematically planning to betray our entire family for months. But then my computer science brain kicked in, and I remembered something crucial. Mrs. Chen, I said slowly, Madison made a mistake. She used her real credit card to book that flight. So I helped her set up her banking apps last year when she got her new phone. I still have access to her cloud backup passwords. I was already opening my laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. If she's been using credit cards to fund this escape plan, I can track every transaction in real time. Jamie, isn't that illegal? I paused, staring at the login screen for Madison's bank account. She'd stolen my future, destroyed my credit, and was about to disappear with enough money to ruin multiple lives. The legal system would take months to even begin addressing this, and by then she'd be long gone. Probably, I admitted. But Madison made one crucial error in her planning. What's that? She forgot that I'm a computer science major. And I'm about to show her exactly what happens when you steal from someone who knows how to find you. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as Madison's banking dashboard loaded on my screen. What I found made my heart race. She wasn't just running with stolen money. She was actively draining accounts in real time. 3 transactions had gone through in the past hour, $8,500 to something called Northwest Identity Services, $15,000 to Cascade Financial Holdings, and $22,000 to an account labeled JC Enterprises. All while she was supposedly driving to the airport. She's not alone, I breathed into the phone. Mrs. Chen, Madison has help. Someone else is moving money while she travels. What do you mean? I screenshotted the transactions and sent them to Mrs. Chen's phone. Look at the timestamps. These payments went through after she left the house, but they're to companies that require identity verification and paperwork. Someone else has been setting this up. Mrs. Chen was quiet for a moment. Jamie, what if this isn't Madison's first time? What if she's done this before? The thought sent chills down my spine. I pulled up Google and started searching for Jessica Chen, combined with Madison's known associates, her previous jobs, her ex-boyfriends. What I found made my blood run cold. Jessica Chen had a credit history dating back 3 years. Student loans from a college in Arizona that Madison had never attended. Employment records from companies I'd never heard of. Even social media profiles with photos that were clearly Madison, but with completely different life details. She's been building this identity for years, I told Mrs. Chen. This wasn't a desperate plan because we caught her. This was always the endgame. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stop looking or you'll regret it. M. She knew I was tracking her. Mrs. Chen, she's monitoring her accounts. She knows we're watching. I started taking screenshots of everything, racing against time before Madison could lock me out completely. How is that possible? Banking apps send alerts for login attempts. She probably got a notification the second I accessed her account. I was frantically downloading transaction histories, account statements, anything that might help law enforcement track her later. But if she's watching her accounts, that means she's still using her phone. I opened a new browser window and logged into the family's cell phone plan. Madison's line showed her current location as a rest stop 40 miles north of the city, heading directly toward the airport. But then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Mrs. Chen, Madison just bought another plane ticket. Same flight, but now there are 2 seats reserved under Jessica Chen. 2 seats. I pulled up the airline confirmation that had just hit her credit card. She's traveling with someone. Someone who also has fake ID under the name David Chen. Mrs. Chen's sharp intake of breath told me she'd reached the same conclusion I had. Jamie, I think I know who David is. Who? Madison's ex-boyfriend Marcus. The one who supposedly kicked her out last spring. They've been talking again. I saw his car in our neighborhood twice this month, but Madison said they were just friends. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Madison hadn't moved home because Marcus dumped her. She'd moved home to be closer to our financial documents while she and Marcus planned this elaborate theft and identity fraud scheme. My laptop screen suddenly went black, then displayed a message, access denied. Account security protocols activated. Madison had locked me out of everything. But she'd made one final mistake. In her panic to secure her accounts, she'd forgotten that her phone was still connected to our family tracking plan. And that tracking plan was managed through my stepfather's work account, which had administrator privileges she couldn't override. I could still see exactly where she was going. And I was about to make sure she never made it there. I called 911 with shaking hands, watching Madison's location inch closer to the airport on my laptop screen. The dispatcher's calm professionalism felt surreal against the chaos exploding in my head. I need to report someone fleeing with stolen funds, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She's heading to Portland International Airport, flight departing in 4 hours. Sir, I need you to slow down. What's your relationship to this person? She's my stepsister. She stole $40,000 from my college fund and over $80,000 from her employer. She's using fake identification to flee the state. The dispatcher took down Madison's real name, her fake identity, the flight information, everything I could give her. But when she told me the estimated response time for airport security to coordinate with local police, my heart sank. 3 to 4 hours. Her flight leaves in less than 4 hours. Sir, we'll do our best, but coordinating with airport security and the FBI requires. I hung up and immediately called Amanda from Nexus Digital. She answered on the second ring, sounding like she hadn't slept. Jamie? Did you find Madison? She's running. Airport, fake ID, the works. But Amanda, there's something else. She's not alone, and this isn't her first time doing this. I explained about the Jessica Chen identity, the years of preparation, the mysterious David Chen traveling with her. Amanda was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Jesus Christ, she finally whispered. Jamie, we found something in Madison's office tonight. Travel confirmations to 6 different cities over the past 2 years. All under different names. My stomach lurched. She's done this before. We think so. And if that's true, then Nexus isn't her first victim. We could be looking at a multi-state fraud ring. Amanda's voice grew urgent. Where is she now? I checked the tracking app. 20 miles from the airport. But Amanda, even if police get there in time, how do they prove Jessica Chen is Madison? If her fake ID is good enough for TSA, they can't just walk up to random passengers. They need probable cause, and if she's using high-quality forged documents. Amanda trailed off, and I could practically hear her realizing the same thing I was. Madison might actually get away with this. That's when my phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. You should have minded your own business. By the time you read this, Jessica Chen will be starting her new life. Thanks for the college fund, it was the seed money I needed. White-hot rage flooded through me. Madison wasn't just stealing money, she was taunting me about destroying my future. She thought she was smarter than everyone, untouchable because she'd planned this for years. But she'd forgotten something crucial about me. I wasn't just someone she'd stolen from. I was someone who'd spent 4 years learning how to solve complex problems under pressure. And Madison had just given me the biggest problem of my life to solve. I opened a new browser window and started typing frantically. If the police couldn't get there in time, and if her fake ID was good enough to fool airport security, then I needed to find another way to stop her from getting on that plane. Madison thought she'd covered all her bases, but she'd made one critical error in her planning. She'd underestimated exactly how far I was willing to go to get my life back. And she was about to learn that sometimes the best way to catch a thief isn't through the legal system. Sometimes you have to beat them at their own game. The solution hit me like lightning as I stared at Madison's location crawling toward the airport. She'd been so careful about covering her financial tracks, building fake identities, planning escape routes, but she'd overlooked the one thing that could bring it all crashing down. Social media. Madison's entire fraud operation depended on her carefully curated online presence. Her fake influencer accounts, her professional image at Nexus, her whole digital empire that she built to justify her lifestyle. She was addicted to maintaining that image, even now. I pulled up Instagram and found her story from earlier tonight, the client dinner that was actually her celebration meal. But more importantly, I could see she was still posting. Even while running from the law, Madison couldn't resist documenting her life. Her most recent story, posted 20 minutes ago, a photo of highway lights through a car windshield with the caption, "Late night drives hit different sparkles, #new chapter, #fresh start." She was live streaming her escape because she couldn't help herself. But if Madison was still posting, that meant all her accounts were still active. And if her accounts were active, I could use them against her. I opened my laptop and navigated to the admin panel for Nexus Digital's client management system, the same system Madison had been using to run her fake vendor scams. Amanda had sent me temporary access credentials earlier when they were investigating the fraud. Madison thought she'd covered her tracks by creating fake businesses, but every transaction had to be approved through Nexus's system. And that system kept logs of everything: IP addresses, device information, login times, even GPS coordinates when accessed from mobile devices. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I pulled up months of Madison's activity logs. What I found was a roadmap of her entire operation, complete with timestamps and locations that proved she'd been running her scams from our house, from Nexus's office, even from vacation spots she'd claimed were business trips. But more importantly, the logs showed me something else. Madison was still logged into the Nexus system. Right now. She was accessing client accounts while driving to the airport. She was trying to drain more money even as she ran. I grabbed my phone and called Amanda back. She's still in your system. Right now, she's moving money. What? That's impossible. We revoked her access hours ago. Check your activity logs. She's using some kind of backdoor access, probably something she set up months ago as insurance. I heard Amanda typing frantically. Oh my god. You're right. She's moving funds from 3 different client accounts. Jamie, she's stealing another $60,000 while we're talking. The audacity was staggering, but it also gave me exactly what I needed. Amanda, can you see which device she's using to access the system? Her personal phone. The same one she's been using for months. Perfect. I pulled up the family phone plan again and cross-referenced Madison's location with the Nexus activity logs. She was accessing their system from exact GPS coordinates that I could track in real time. Amanda, I need you to do something that might sound crazy. Can you trigger a security lockdown on her device access while she's in the middle of a transaction? What do you mean? Force a mandatory password reset that requires her to call IT support to verify her identity. Make it impossible for her to complete these transactions without speaking to a real person at your company. I could hear Amanda's sharp intake of breath as she understood what I was suggesting. Jamie, if she calls our IT line to restore access, you'll have her on a recorded call, admitting her identity, trying to access accounts she's supposed to be locked out of. And that call will timestamp exactly when and where she was trying to steal more money. That's actually brilliant. Hold on. As Amanda worked on her end, I watched Madison's location on my screen. She was 15 miles from the airport now, but she'd stopped moving. She was pulled over somewhere, probably trying to figure out why her phone had suddenly locked her out of the Nexus system right in the middle of transferring stolen money. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it, and Madison's voice exploded through the speaker, no longer bothering with fake sweetness. What the hell did you do? I learned from the best, I said calmly. You taught me that sometimes you have to be creative to get what you want. Jamie, you don't understand what you're messing with. This is bigger than you think. I understand perfectly. You're a thief, Madison. And thieves eventually get caught. Her laugh was bitter. You think this ends with me? You think I'm the only one who knows about your precious college fund, or your stepfather's business accounts, or your mother's retirement savings? My blood went cold. What are you talking about? I told you I wasn't alone in this. And my partner has been very interested in your family's financial information. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to unlock my access to that system, or everyone you care about is going to learn exactly how far this goes. The line went dead, and I realized with growing horror that stopping Madison was just the beginning. I'd walked straight into something much darker than I'd ever imagined. Madison's threat echoed in my head as I stared at my laptop screen, watching her location pulse ominously 15 miles from the airport. But instead of panic, something cold and calculating settled over me. She just made her biggest mistake yet. By threatening my family, Madison had revealed that Marcus wasn't just helping her escape, he was still here, with access to our financial information. I called Mrs. Chin immediately. Where are you right now? Still at the hotel. Why? Jamie, you sound. Lock your door and don't let anyone in. Madison just threatened our entire family. Her partner is still in the city. While Mrs. Chin secured herself, I did what any good computer science student would do when faced with a digital threat. I turned Madison's own tools against her. The Nexus system wasn't just logging her current activity, it had been tracking every device that accessed their network for months. Including whatever devices Marcus had been using to help her move money. I pulled up the access logs and found exactly what I was looking for, a second set of login credentials that had been accessing Madison's fake vendor accounts. The device was registered to an address across town, Marcus's apartment. But more importantly, that device was also logged into the system right now, trying to access our family's financial information through Madison's stolen credentials. I had him. I called Amanda one more time. I found Madison's partner. He's in your system right now, trying to access more accounts. Can you trace the IP address? Already on it. Jamie, this is incredible. We can see every transaction they've made, every fake account they've created, everything. The FBI is going to have a field day with this evidence. My phone buzzed with a text from Madison, last chance. Unlock my access or watch your family lose everything. I typed back, check your Instagram. Then I did something that would have been unthinkable 6 hours ago, but now felt like poetic justice. Using Madison's own social media management tools, the same ones she'd used to build her fake influencer empire, I logged into every single one of her accounts. The real ones and the fake ones. And I posted everything. Screenshots of her fake vendor invoices. Records of the stolen money. Photos of her forged signatures on my bank withdrawal slips. Evidence of her fake follower purchases and bot engagement rings. Every single piece of fraud, embezzlement, and identity theft, laid out in a comprehensive thread across all her platforms. But the final post was the masterpiece, a screen recording of her current location, actively logged into the Nexus system, trying to steal more money while using fake identification to flee the state. I tagged Nexus Digital, the FBI's financial crimes division, and every single client she'd been scamming. Within minutes, Madison's phone started buzzing with notifications as her entire digital empire collapsed in real time. Comments flooded in from clients demanding answers, former colleagues expressing shock, and internet strangers who loved nothing more than watching an influencer scam get exposed. My phone rang. Madison, screaming. You destroyed everything. Do you understand what you've done? I understand perfectly, I said, watching as airport security vehicles appeared on the traffic cameras I'd hacked into. I learned that sometimes the best way to stop a thief is to use their own vanity against them. Jamie, please. Madison, look behind you. The police cars were pulling up to her location just as the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit was raiding Marcus's apartment. Amanda had coordinated with law enforcement to hit both locations simultaneously, armed with all the digital evidence I'd gathered. As I watched Madison's location stop moving permanently, my phone pinged with a text from the University Financial Aid Office. Mr. Williams, we've been contacted by the FBI regarding your situation. Your tuition deadline has been extended pending recovery of stolen funds. Please call us Monday morning. 6 hours after discovering my college fund was gone, I'd not only tracked down the thieves but handed law enforcement enough evidence to dismantle their entire operation. Madison had taught me that family meant something. She just hadn't expected me to learn the lesson quite so thoroughly.